And we are live once again in the middle of the NBA season. What's going on, everyone? This is Fantasy NBA Tonight, live with me, Vince Miracle, and my co-host every single Tuesday. I believe the older one of the two Dhanani brothers over here at the hoop-ball.com team, Riaz Dhanani. Riaz, what's going on?
Hey Vince, how's it going? Tip off tonight, first game of the season, opening night, so I'm really pumped up.
Oh, yes. And just so you guys know, the reason why I'm looking over here and looking down here, I got two games going on because we want to make sure that we're keeping up to date with what's actually happening in these two games that are taking place. And as I say that, Ronnie Hood just rolled his ankle. And I don't know how bad it is. He looks like he's fine. He's getting up and he's stretching it out. I'll keep you up to date with what happens there. So just so everyone knows what happens here on Fantasy NBA Tonight Live, myself and Rios, we like to take all of your guys' fantasy basketball questions. All you have to do to get a question here on the show is leave your question down in the comment section and then in the live chat. No matter the size of your league or what type of league you are in, we're here and we're ready to answer all of your questions. Again, you may see me look to the left a little bit because, well, I'll be actually watching these games as they happen. I'm looking over the Rodney Hood injury right now to see if it's anything crazy or if there's anything that we need to talk about. And it looks like he's going to be okay for the most part. So, Riaz, let's start off with game one today while we wait for our viewership to kind of grow and get up a little bit. We saw the Cavs put on a dominant performance over the New York Knicks. It was something I expected. I'm not very high on the New York Knicks, even with their new additions. What were some of your takeaways?
Well, I think you hit it right on the head. You know, the expectations for the New York Knicks, it seemed like they're more of a team on paper. And the Cavs certainly exposed that tonight. Of course, it was their banner night, so LeBron was, I guess he had that playoff gear, so to speak. I think that we're going to see LeBron go back into regular season mode here soon. But, you know, with the lights turned on and everybody watching on opening night, it seems like, you know, LeBron always has that extra bounce in his step. And so tonight he definitely displayed that extra bounce. And so, you know, it's only one game to judge, so we can't write off the New York Knicks just yet. But they did struggle quite a bit. There were times where it looked like they could keep up, but then that third quarter and then, gosh, that fourth quarter, it was over pretty quickly. So, you know, we don't want to be quick to judge here, but yeah, there was a lot of things that we can point to in this game.
Yeah, so LeBron James, first time ever in his career on an opening night game, gets a triple-double. Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love, they put on a magnificent performance. They were fun to watch, the big three over there in Cleveland. J.R. Smith was a little inconsistent. He knocked down some shots. Yeah, you flip it over to the other side. Carmelo Anthony, he scored points. I believe he had 5 rebounds to finish out the game. I'm pulling up the box score right now. But 4 turnovers. That's definitely not a sign that you want to see. I'm going to just run down the stat sheet here for the starters of both teams. You had Carmelo Anthony with 19 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Like I said, those 4 turnovers were not pretty. You had Kristaps Porzingis, who played well. He had 16 points, 7 rebounds, 1 steal, and 2 blocks. He only did shoot 38.5% from the field. Joakim Noah had 6 rebounds and 3 assists with 1 steal and 0 points on the game in 19 minutes. Courtney Lee finished with 0 points and 3 rebounds. And Derrick Rose, 17 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 assist in his Knicks debut. For the Cleveland Cavaliers, like I said, LeBron James finishes with a triple-double, 19 points, 11 rebounds, and 14 assists. Kevin Love, 23 points, 12 rebounds, 2 assists, and 3 steals. So you got defensive stats from a guy that you don't normally expect defensive stats from. Hopefully you can see that on a more consistent basis. Tristan Thompson plays 22 minutes and just grabs 6 rebounds and gives you nothing else. J.R. Smith, like I said, he came in. He played 25 minutes. He had 8 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal, but shot 3 of 13 from the field. Ugh. And then Kyrie Irving, the big part of the big three, finished off the night with 29 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals on 12 of 22 shooting. Again, just looking at the box score, was there anybody, maybe not from that starting 5, that you looked at, Riaz, that you said, hey, he's actually someone you might want to put on your radar after a game like this?
Well, you know, it might have been just because it was a blowout, but Justin Holiday got in there and earned 26 minutes tonight. And, you know, he did put up a decent stat line. It looks like he had 8 points there. He actually got to take 7 shots, so I would assume that Carmelo and Derrick Rose were probably out of the game. he had 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. So that's just somebody to watch out for, just in case something happens out there to the other guys. Of course, you and I had actually discussed Brandon Jennings a little bit in a previous podcast. It seems like he is obviously the man to run the point there. He's a dark horse, not even a dark horse, probably the favorite now to lead the Knicks in assists this season, especially with the way Derrick Rose plays tonight. I believe he had 4 turnovers and only 1 assist, as you mentioned. That's not a good assist-to-turnover ratio, and I think the Knicks will find out pretty quick that maybe a pass-first point guard like Brandon Jennings might do their offense some good. And of course, there's always concern with Derrick Rose's injury. So Brandon Jennings, definitely one of the guys that wasn't starting to keep in mind this season. Of course, he's owned in quite a bit of leagues, but kind of under the radar there. Somebody to keep an eye on. And of course, like I said, Justin Holiday with 26 minutes, he got some run time, somebody just to keep an eye on, because Courtney Lee really struggled tonight. He was 0 for 5. He had no points. He was contributing nothing out there. So seeing the guy right behind him come in and put together some quality minutes was important.
Yeah, and you actually took the player that I had from both teams, I think is the biggest standout. He came off the bench and played 26 minutes, more than Courtney Lee played, and it could be due to the fact that Courtney Lee was struggling, but defensively, Justin Holiday definitely made his presence known. He didn't really make an offensive push other than making those 2 3-pointers, one from the assist of Carmelo Anthony. But, this was just a bad game. I think this was just the game where either the Cavs were going to come out and they were ready to show why they won that championship, or it was going to be an underwhelming game to start the NBA season. And sometimes you get that on the ring ceremony type of games. It's not a surprise. You've seen it before. But we got to see LeBron James get that triple-double. I thought it was something extraordinary to watch. You just saw LeBron James be LeBron James at the prime of his career, and people are talking about he's on the decline. You see that overall in all like ESPN and things like that. They talk about how he's on the decline. His decline is just so amazing that he's still better than almost everybody else in the NBA. It's so much fun to watch. But I'm looking at this Cavs bench here, Riaz, and I think there's players that aren't playing that you definitely want to put on attention. I think Kay Felder, for a deeper league, if you need a shooting guard / point guard, he's going to be playing backup to Kyrie Irving. He's going to see some minutes at the 2. He can knock down the 3-point shot. He's shown that he can be a presence on the floor during the preseason. Again, take it with a grain of salt. It's preseason. But when a guy like Kay, and then also Iman Shumpert goes down with an injury and possibly has concussion-like symptoms, so you could see him get more minutes there. What are your thoughts on a guy like Kay Felder, Riaz?
It's funny you mentioned Iman Shumpert. I was going to say no surprise there. He couldn't even last one NBA game without showing up on that injury.
Oh man,
poor guy. It's interesting. Kay Felder had a really good solid preseason there. So if he gets some run, he's definitely a guy to watch. And he's backing up Kyrie, and he could play some minutes at the guard. So that's somebody to keep an eye on. One guy that no one's really talking about in this game that was interesting to me was Kyle O'Quinn. He was a guy that was actually hyped up a lot last year and was drafted as a flyer late in drafts. He did get to play about 15 minutes tonight, and he's buried behind Joakim Noah out there, but he can do it all. He shoots 3-pointers. He came in tonight and he had 5 boards. He also got 2 block shots in 15 minutes. If there was an injury situation, and I say if, I mean when there's an injury situation with there
you go.
there might be a second chance there for Kyle O'Quinn to just to get in there and shine. So maybe in deeper leagues, that's a guy to also keep a look on, keep an eye out for.
Yeah, I think that's a good name to bring up, because Kyle O'Quinn, surprisingly, I thought he got more minutes than I would even expect him to. He was on the floor for a large majority of the time to end the first quarter and to start the second quarter, while Joakim Noah sat on the bench. And again, Joakim Noah is not going to be in there for points. And you heard Jeff Hornacek say that he's going to let that second unit run. And I thought Brandon Jennings made that second unit run a lot. And I know you just brought him up a second ago, but while the viewership keeps coming on in, and we're waiting for these other games to end, and it's a very close game right now in Poland. Tie game with 4 minutes and 35 seconds left, 99-99. Damian Lillard's having a great game. Ronnie Hood is having a great game. George Hill is looking like a perfect fit for that Utah Jazz team. But like we were talking about again, Brandon Jennings, what do you think he can provide for fantasy owners? Do you think he's going to be able to hold at least end of the roster type of value for at least deeper leagues? Is he more of just a DFS play for value plays, or do you think you should take the wait and see approach for him?
No, I think it's that last one. I think it's the wait and see approach with Brandon Jennings because as I was mentioning, he might be able to lead the Knicks in assists, which isn't hard to do these days with the way that their style of play. But he might be a better answer than a guy like Derrick Rose, and eventually, Rose could go down. So you want to hold on to Brandon Jennings on those last few roster spots because he might even finish with higher value at the end of the season, just depending on the situation with Derrick Rose.
All right, guys, this is Fantasy NBA Tonight, live with me, Vince Miracle, and my co-host every single Tuesday, the one and only Riaz Dhanani. And this show is a hoop-ball.com presentation. And what we like to do on this show is answer all of your fantasy basketball questions. And tonight may be one of the best nights to actually get your questions in because we're only in here for 1 hour tonight, like always, 9 p.m. Pacific time, 10 p.m. Pacific time. And there's unfortunately games going on right now, and one game that's happened to be going on is actually it's probably a jaw dropper because no one I thought expected this, Riaz, and I have to bring it up because it is the third quarter. There's 3 minutes and 2 seconds left in this game, or in the third quarter,
right?
And the San Antonio Spurs are up 86-69. Is your mind blown about how bad this Warriors team is looking against the San Antonio Spurs without Danny Green, without Tim Duncan?
Well, it's funny. It's just one of those situations where the NBA, especially early in the season, calls for a lot of overreaction. The Warriors are probably the heaviest favorite we've ever seen to win the NBA Finals this season. I want to say that I saw somewhere where it was maybe minus 200 on some of those websites. So they're a heavy favorite, and to see them go down so far to the San Antonio Spurs, I believe right now they're currently down by 16 points. It is a bit of a shock, but it's one of those things where no team is perfect. You're never going to see 82-0. They might have the better matchup, they might have the better team, but it's going to take some games here. But I do expect them to be early front runners, and have by Christmas time you're going to see a huge difference than you are tonight. And that was my actually might have tweeted that out, that I think that they were going to lose tonight, but probably run the table pretty far here going into Christmas. So not surprised at all. First game jitters, but these are two of the best teams, and we're talking about a Spurs team that was very under the radar last year. That added a guy like Pau Gasol, so they're not chopped liver or anything like that. And of course, they have one of the best coaches in the NBA. So, this is good basketball. This is fun to watch. You're watching a preview of some of the best teams in the NBA. So, take it all in tonight and enjoy it. But I wouldn't say that this means anything.
All I think it means is that it's putting the Warriors in the spot to where they are allowed to be criticized for a little while, and it's going to happen until they actually win their first game, which I don't think will be that long. It could be game 2 for them. But we actually do have a question that came into the chat, and it's back to the Cavs game that we just got done talking about. Jay Zhang, thank you so much for joining us on the show while there is basketball going on. Ask Kevin Love. Thoughts on Kevin Love's performance tonight, Riaz?
Sure. So, Kevin Love had an excellent performance tonight. I believe he had a double-double. Pulling it up here. I want to say that, so he had 23 points and 12 rebounds to go along with 3 steals, and he actually hit 2 3-pointers, and his free throw shooting was okay with 9 out of 12. So, Kevin Love is one of those guys that he might actually be a better regular season player than he is a playoff guy. And, with LeBron, tonight you saw his playoff mode. You saw hungry, lights on playoff mode for LeBron. But, as the regular season wears along, he's one of those guys that knows that it's all about the playoffs. And so you're going to see him kind of take, maybe a second gear back or something like that. And you're going to see Kevin Love, I think, would be a lot more featured during the regular season. So I think he had a great performance tonight. And I think he's right where his ADP was in that third round. I think that I don't think there's anything to worry about with him. And in fact, tonight he played excellent. So seeing that he can coexist in a game where LeBron and Kyrie did so well, I think the fantasy owners should be very pleased with his output tonight. and expect maybe even bigger things moving forward. Just because I think, like I said, I think that he's more of a regular season player, and so in fantasy that bodes well.
He went on to say he also missed a lot of easy free throws, could have got more. But is this his breakout year? And I do want to read down his stat line one more time. He had 23 points, 12 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals. I think that is something that you have to take notice on, the 3 steals. Can he be a defensive presence elite? Like maybe like a Zaza Pachulia, get you a steal and a half. And I bring his name up because I'm watching this Warriors game, and the Warriors are trying to make push 73 to now 91. The Spurs keep holding them off, and it is the third quarter. But if Kevin Love can hold the defensive stats, that would be nice to see. He shot 6 of 15 from the field, but you're right. He missed 3 free throws, 9 of 12, shot 75%, hit 2 3-pointers, and he also only had 2 turnovers. So is this a breakout year for Kevin Love? No, but I do think that this is the year where he shows you why he is Kevin Love, why they are the big three and not just the dynamic duo of Kyrie Irving and LeBron James. Do you think this is the breakout year for Kevin Love, Riaz?
I wouldn't necessarily call it a breakout year, but I'd say a lot more comfortable on his part. And so, going through a whole season last year and now getting into this season and them coming off a championship with the pressure taken off, I think that he's going to be a lot more comfortable in this offense. And like I said, he's a really good regular season player. So I think that he'll definitely live up to his ADP. Like I said tonight, it shows that he can coexist with the other two guys doing really, really well as well. So, I would expect games like this quite often from Kevin Love.
All right, guys, this is Fantasy NBA Tonight Live with myself, Vince Miracle. Jay, you're very welcome. With myself, Vince Miracle, and my co-host every single Tuesday night, the older brother of the two, Riaz Dhanani. This is a hoop-ball.com presentation. What we like to do here on this show is answer all of your fantasy basketball questions, no matter the size of your show the size of your league or what type of league you're in. This show loves to answer all of your fantasy basketball questions. And I do want to get some of this, intermission stuff out of the way, because I do have to remind everyone that this is the final week that Fantasy NBA Tonight Live is free to everyone. This show becomes a premium member show. You have to be a premium in-season member over at hoop-ball.com. And to do that, I actually just left the link down below in the description. You guys can click on that and become an in-season member today. Also, follow Riaz and at RiazD on Twitter, myself at VM Center. Those links are at the bottom below. And Hoopball Tweets. That's the link to, or the Twitter handle to the site, hoop-ball.com. Bookmark the site. As I go back into the chat board here, Riaz, Jay asked once again, any thoughts on Ish Smith this season?
Well, it's interesting. I think that, if he starts off hot, with Reggie Jackson injured, he might be able to force Stan Van Gundy to have to make some really tough decisions, especially if they start off, doing really well. So, I think that he's a great flyer late in drafts, and I think that he is a guy to hold, especially through these, first few weeks as he's getting ample amounts of playing time. So that's definitely a guy that, late in drafts that people were picking up, and a lot of people know. You can kind of tell when you see smart drafters that are going after guys that are going to get big opportunities to start the season, because you never know how well a team can do when a new guy enters the fold. And so this will be interesting to watch as it develops going forward.
What about a guy like Bano Udrih? They just claimed him off waivers. I honestly feel he'd be able to run that team a little bit better because the fact that he can knock down a three-point shot. He doesn't take too many crazy passes. He plays within the offense. Do you think he can take away minutes from a guy like Ish Smith while they're waiting for Reggie Jackson to return?
I think that was actually a good point. They claimed him off waivers for a reason, and I bet the Pistons were a bit surprised that he was cut. And so, they've been looking for a veteran point guard. And so that is a guy that might be able to carve out some minutes there, not for fantasy relevance purposes, but definitely to kind of bother those Ish Smith owners within this first month here, where Ish is going to get playing time.
Yeah, I think you've taken everything that I've thought about Ish Smith and put it right out into the world that I really don't have to repeat too much. I think if you're looking for assists and high turnovers, go after a guy like Ish Smith. He's going to be the end of your roster type of guy. But I just feel like there's other players out there that you can go get. Like with Marcus Smart down, if you wanted to, take a flyer on a Terry Rozier, I think he's available. You can go get a guy like Etuan Moore, who's starting at the shooting guard position, who has played point guard minutes for Chicago last season. He's able to do a little bit of things with the basketball in his hands. Even a guy like who am I missing here? I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Dang it, I had a good one. It's gone. Sorry about that, guys. But there's I just believe that Tim Frazier, New Orleans. There you go. That's another guy I was thinking of. Tim Frazier. He's sometimes not being claimed in drafts. So you can go get him off the waiver wire, bring him onto your team, and have the assists over a guy like Ish Smith. Matthew Dellavedova is another one that I think I would rank over a guy like Ish Smith. And we brought up Beno Udrih for a reason, and I think they brought in Beno Udrih because it makes more sense for that team to have him be that veteran presence who can even play later in games and stretch the floor out away from a guy like Andre Drummond. Because if Drummond's going to continue to get doubled, especially with the bad shooting, or the good shooting that could be around him, the bad shooting of Ish Smith can be a problem. You add another shooter with Marcus Morris, Tobias Harris, and John Lure next to Andre Drummond. I think that is exactly what they're looking for over there in Detroit when they're making their team around Andre Drummond. So I appreciate your questions. I hope we answered your thoughts on Ish Smith. And Riaz, I want to once again remind everyone, as our viewership is starting to go up a little bit, because this game between the Warriors and the Golden State Warriors, the 2K lineup is getting beat down on opening night of the NBA season. This is Fantasy NBA Tonight Live with myself and the one and only
Riaz Dhanani.
There you go. See, look at that cute guy over there, Riaz Dhanani, the older brother of the two Dhanani brothers that we have here over at hoop-ball.com. Go give him a follow at Riaz D, myself at VM Center, and the site at Hoopball Tweets. Get your fantasy questions here, live, answered here on the show. Just type your question down in the live chat. And hey, while you guys are watching this show and you're like, hey, these two guys are pretty funny. They look really good on camera. Plus, they give out some great fantasy advice. Hit that thumbs up button and become a subscriber to the YouTube channel today. There's not much going on here in the YouTube chat, Riaz, but the Portland game looks like it's wrapping up, and Portland looks like they're going to come away with a victory. It's 109-104 with 27.1 seconds left in the game. So the game is definitely still not necessarily over, but it's all but over, I would say.
Right.
Was there anybody who stood out to you? I think one name that I'll throw out there who started in place of Gordon Hayward is Joe Johnson. 29 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal on 12 of 16 shooting. And then you go over to the Portland side. Who else would be scoring 37 points on the opening night other than Dame Dollar, 37 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. We'll go over the entire box score as soon as that game ends. But any takeaways from that game from what you've seen so far while we're waiting for it to wrap up?
Sure. Well, I'm surprised that you didn't mention your man, Rodney. It's all good in the hood there. He is going off tonight. He has 26 points. 3 3-pointers there, 9 for 17 shooting. And so he's having himself quite a breakout game. He had some of these games towards the end of last season, especially in the fantasy playoffs. And so for him to come in tonight on opening night and kind of make a statement to the fantasy community is very interesting, as he was kind of a mid-round to late-round selection there. So, Rodney Hood is definitely someone to watch for, and it's going to be interesting, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but when Gordon Hayward comes back, how this whole dynamic is going to change. But he's definitely making his case to play big minutes for the Jazz and to score a lot of points.
For those who decided to watch us instead of watching the games and you wanted an up-to-date score of what is happening in the association right now, it is with 10 minutes and 45 seconds left ongoing in the fourth quarter of the Golden State Warriors and Spurs game. Manu Ginobili just makes a layup. It is now 104-81, Spurs leading. Wow, what a game for the Golden State Warriors. And then you move over you just move to Portland, and you see that the Portland Trailblazers, who were down, and Ronnie Hood, like you said, George Hill were giving the Portland Trailblazers work in that third quarter, have came back. They've taken the lead, and it is 111-104. CJ McCollum is leaving the free throw line with 23.5 seconds left in the game. And that is what's going on right now. I don't want to go over the full box score yet until we have a definitive box score going down. So if you guys have any of your fantasy questions, feel free to bring them in now in the live chat. We're willing to answer all of your fantasy basketball questions with myself, Vince Miracle, and Riaz Dhanani here on Fantasy NBA Tonight Live. I think I'm just taken away by a lot of this here, Riaz. But, I'm looking at this Utah team. They're deep. They have a deep roster. I have them as one of my sleeper teams in the Western. And I don't even think it's a sleeper anymore because everyone seems to be so high on this team. I have them being the 4th seed in the Western Conference, and I don't see them struggling at all because of a guy like Joe Johnson, because of a guy like Ronnie Hood to be able to step in while Gordon Hayward is out. What is there anybody on this team going away from the starters like a Gordon Hayward, like a Rodney Hood, like a Derek Favors and Rudy Gobert, that you look at their bench maybe and say this guy should be on teams in standard leagues or maybe in deeper leagues?
It's interesting. Towards the fantasy playoffs last year, one of the MVPs at some point was Shelvin Mack. To see him buried on this roster, he was said to be behind Dante Exum and also clearly behind George Hill. But for him to come in tonight and play 15 minutes is very interesting to me because he's playing ahead of Dante Exum as of right now, and he had some moments last year where he was close to a triple-double on a few nights there in March. So that's someone that has produced before in this same offense. And so someone to keep in mind, especially in very deep leagues. You might want to just take a look there at Shelvin Mack. And if there was a possible future injury to George Hill, he'd be someone to keep in mind.
What about a guy like Trey Lyles? Are you high on him of being a actual fantasy relevant player while you have a healthy Boris Diaw who started over him tonight with the Derek Favors sitting out with a knee injury? It looks like Derek Favors did some intense workouts at the end of practice today and is looking to and is hopeful to make a return later on this week. But if you guys set him in a weekly lineup, I don't know. He's still going to be listed as questionable. There's not been a definitive answer on whether or not he'll be playing in the Jazz's next game. But you have him being injured right now. Boris Diaw starting above Trey Lyles. Do you think he should still be on people's rosters, though, or is it mainly for the deeper league, maybe 14 to 16 league type of players that he needs to be on those type of rosters, but standard leagues take the wait-and-see approach?
I think that you hit it on the head there. I think that he's more of a deeper league asset. He was getting overhyped in this offseason. And tonight, more than any night, you expected Lyles to come out with Favors out to play some big minutes and put up some good numbers. But, he still got his 18 minutes tonight. And that's not a lot of minutes given the fact that Favors wasn't out there. And so for him to get 18 minutes and not produce too much, it looks like he had 5 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and he also had 3 turnovers out there. So, that's kind of a letdown, and I'm sure that he might have been a popular DFS pick tonight too as well because, he was expected to do pretty well with as we mentioned with Favors out. Favors looks like he's going to be back, maybe even the next game. So that's a guy that might slide down and see his role either decline or be similar to what it was tonight. And if he's not producing in a game like this, then he might be somebody that you might wait and see on in 16-team leagues, the deeper leagues. But, in 12-team or standard leagues or lower, I would probably cut the bait right now.
All right, Riaz, the game has wrapped up. The final score to the Portland Trailblazers versus the Utah Jazz. Portland 113, Utah 104. So Portland is able to get the home court victory over the Utah Jazz, who suffer the loss with the absence of Gordon Hayward, Alec Burks, and Derek Favors in game 1 of the regular season. But there's 81 more of those to go, and I still have them very high in my rankings after this. I honestly feel like this was a very entertaining game, and it's better than the showcasing game of the night where we have in the fourth quarter right now with 8 minutes left in the game, 110-82, San Antonio leading. So with that now out of the way, and we're waiting for our viewership to continue to go up right now. I do know that this is the first night of the NBA, so I was expecting low viewership in this show. But we are here. We are ready to answer all of your fantasy basketball questions, and all you have to do to get your question here on the show is put it right there in the live chat. It's down there at the bottom for you guys. Type it on in there, and Mr. Riaz D and I will continue answering them here live on the show. So with that said, now, Riaz, again, let's move to the box score, because I think this is where we're going to be seeing a lot of our money. I have a lot of these players on my team in different types of leagues. One being Rudy Gobert, who is in the Fantrax League right now, that we are in together for hoop ball. I was worried a little bit about the free throws. I don't know how good he did in free throws. I only got to watch pieces of this game. I was, anticipating the Warriors game. Wanted to see how this was going to turn out. Did not expect this. And then it was just a fun game to watch at the end with the Portland game. So let's go down to the box score, and let's start off with the Utah Jazz, who did suffer the loss to the start of the season. But Joe Johnson gets the start in the absence of Gordon Hayward with that broken finger, plays 30 minutes, finishes with 29 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal on 12 of 16 shooting. Knocks down 2 of 2 from the free throw line, 3 3-pointers, and only 2 turnovers. You go down to Boris Diaw, who also played 32 minutes tonight, had only 2 points and 3 rebounds, and was 1 of 8 from the field and did nothing else for you. He did have 5 personal fouls and only 1 turnover, so at least he didn't turn over the basketball. And the guy that I've been waiting to see the stat line for, so hopefully it's really good because I still haven't checked the Fantrax League just yet. He finished with 12 points, good start, 14 rebounds, great finish, 2 assists, 2 block shots, 4 of 7 shooting, 4 of 4 from the free throw line, Riaz. That's a great sign in his very first game, and 3 turnovers. Ronnie Hood, it's all good in the hood. The main man, Rod Hood, finishes with 26 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, a block on 9 of 17 shooting, 5 of 5 from the free throw line, 3 3-pointers. This guy is going to be legit while Ronnie Hood is out, while Gordon Hayward is out. Get Ronnie Hood into your lineups. I hope you were lucky and was able to get him where he slid. I unfortunately did not get that benefit. I thought he would slide in my draft. He's still not that big name, but this is what happens when he gets the minutes. And we go to the point guard of the night before we move over to the Portland side. George Hill makes his Utah Jazz debut in the regular season and finishes with 19 points, 2 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, and a block on 7 of 18 shooting, 4 4 from the free throw line, and 1 3-pointer. All right, Riaz, who stood out to you in that game, and is it all good in the hood?
Well, it is all good in the hood, and as we talked about a little bit earlier, Rodney Hood with 26 points. I mean, he's somebody that was being drafted, in those middle to late rounds, and was largely ignored on draft night, which was a little bit surprising given the finish that he had last season. And so, he's a guy that can come in and, maybe even make a push for an all-star spot if he continues this type of play. Of course, it's only opening night, so that might be a little bit too much hype, but, it's interesting to see, at least from an opening night perspective, to see him do really well in this offense. Another guy that I really wanted to talk about, and you just mentioned him, was George Hill. I've been an owner of George Hill for the last 2 seasons, and it's different. It's a different situation with him coming into Utah with the ball in his hands a lot more. On the Pacers, I would watch games and be so frustrated because a lot of times you would see George Hill just standing in the corner. And you would watch Monta Ellis and Paul George handle the ball up the court, and he would just kind of be a glorified spot-up shooter at times. And, he wouldn't get as involved until one of those guys was out of the game. And so seeing him here is very encouraging, seeing that George Hill is getting a lot more usage and having the ball in his hands. That's where he is at his best in his career. And to see him do that tonight is a good sign for owners. And they might have gotten a steal on draft day.
Yeah, definitely. So we actually had a question pop up in the live chat from a live show listener. Every single time we hit live on the show, this person joins us. Tamakar asks, Coach Dave Yeager said he expects Ty Lawson to play 30 to 40 minutes during the first 8 games of the season. He scooped him up when he read that news. What can we expect from Ty Lawson?
Well, I think with those first 8 games that he has a chance to put up top 100 value on that Sacramento Kings offense. If he's going to be playing 30 to 40 minutes, you're going to want the point guard in that offense, and it sounds like that he will be. So, if you're in a league and you need a boost in those first few weeks, I suppose that Ty Lawson isn't a bad dice roll there to see what he can do. But I would fully expect Collison to come back and shove him aside so to speak. So that's somebody that you're just picking up for maybe a week or two there and seeing what happens.
Yeah, so I think Dave Yeager basically said that in lieu of what happened with Ty Lawson not making the flight to Kentucky. He's, sticking up for one of his players. It was a personal issue and things like that. And what happened with Ty Lawson or the history with Ty Lawson with the drinking issues and things like that. They don't want to stir up a story, so they're going to bat for Ty Lawson. He's making the team. He was out for a personal. He's going to play 30 to 40 minutes in the first 8 games. I really don't see that happening. I do believe that 28 to 30 minutes. I don't see it's going to be 30 to 40 minutes. They have guys like Garrett Temple who can handle the basketball. Rudy Gay can handle the basketball. Aaron Aflalo can handle the basketball. And honestly, Ty Lawson, what he's going to be there for is mainly for the cutting. He's not that good of a shooter. The passing is that you saw in Denver was because of the drive and kick offense that was there with George Karl. So he definitely has bad habits, and we've seen that through the preseason. I just don't think his play style fits very well with the Sacramento Kings system that Dave Yeager is running. I think Garrett Temple actually runs the system a little bit better than Ty Lawson does. But at the same time, you're hearing that you want to go after him. I don't believe it's going to be top 100 value. I think it's going to be top 110, top 115 value. I'm not. That's how low I am on Ty Lawson, and that could just be because I've been watching the Kings play every single preseason game. I've been monitoring them very closely, and again, Ty Lawson just does not look like he's going to be that good of a fit this year. With the system that they're running, but hopefully he can prove me wrong. I do think it's worth the gamble when you hear news like that he's going to be playing 30 to 40 minutes. And on top of that, he's really the only point guard that they have on that team aside from Garrett Temple and until Darren Collison comes back. Another thing I will bring up as well is that after 5 games, after that 5th game is played, because Darren Collison suspended for eight games, the Sacramento Kings are going to be allowed to pick up another player to add to their roster while Collison is out. And I think that there's a good chance you see Jordan Farmar being brought back into this onto this team. You could see them maybe look at guys like Mario Chalmers, who's still on the market, Norris Cole, who's still on the market. He went overseas, but he has a NBA buyout agreement on that deal. So there's other options that are there, and with Ty Lawson, he's also on an unguaranteed contract. So I think for these first 8 games, he will be playing for his Sacramento Kings career and his tenure there. So that's my personal thought on him from what I've seen. So yeah, you can take it either with a grain of salt or you can take it as gospel, which I really don't know why you would. Riaz, do you think that anything I've said has probably swayed you away from a guy like Ty Lawson at all?
Well, sure. That's not somebody that I was out there actively drafting. That was somebody that maybe, if you're a Collison owner, maybe you can use him for that first week, or if you're in need of some point guard stats in that first matchup that you have in matchup leagues, or if you just wanted to get off to a hot start, that's somebody that maybe you would get out there. But that's not somebody on the radar, so to speak, in those season long leagues. But anything can happen. You want to see how things develop over the course of 8 games is a good sample size. So somebody to plug and play basically is what I would treat Lawson as.
I would honestly just say take the wait and see approach. I want to see what he could. I want him to have a productive game and not just against Maccabi Haifa over the preseason. That's my biggest takeaway from it all is let's at least see him actually have a productive game before we actually go after him. And yeah, thank you so much for your question. Let's go ahead and move back to this Portland-Utah game because there was a lot of fun in there, and now we're ready to get to the team that won. The Portland Trailblazers took the victory 113-104 in a very fun and probably the most entertaining game of the night here on opening night of the NBA season. And we'll start from the top. Mo Harkless got the start and played 22 minutes, finished with 0 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist, and 2 steals. So a very disappointing night for a guy like Mo Harkless. Al-Farouq Aminu played 28 minutes, finished with 9 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, and 1 steal on 3 of 6 shooting. Miles Plumlee had a very quiet night, finished with 2 points, 1 rebound, and 1 assist in his 14 minutes of play. CJ McCollum, 34 minutes, 25 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal on 8 of 16 shooting, 7 of 7 from the free throw line, and 2 of 2 from 3-point range. A very efficient night for a CJ McCollum. And, of course, Dame Dalla, Damian Lillard, 39 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 13 of 20 shooting, 9 of 9 from the free throw line, and 4 of 6 from three-point range. This man was worthy of your second-round pick. And I'm going to bring up this stat line as well, the next two, because I believe they're going to be very important for what we're going to be talking about here soon. And that is Allen Crabbe, who just got paid over the summer, played 29 minutes, had 18 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists on 6 of 10 shooting, 2 of 2 from the free throw line, and 4 3-pointers. And then you move to the new acquisition of Evan Turner. 3 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, 1 block on a 1 of 7 shooting. What stands out to you from this game and hearing that box score?
Sure. So if you want to talk more about those last two guys, what was interesting to me was to see that Allen Crabbe was actually playing big minutes there in a close game in that fourth quarter. So that shows you that the coach has confidence in a guy like Allen Crabbe, especially in a position that's a little bit in flux right now. That forward spot tonight, they started Mo Harkless. They might go a little bit small and put, mixed in some Allen Crabbe or maybe Evan Turner. But to see that the coach had faith to put in Allen Crabbe there late in the game when they needed him, with the game pretty much tied or very close knit in that fourth quarter, shows a lot of confidence and something to definitely keep on your radar. Owners might be a little bit dissuaded more by Evan Turner's stats tonight because he didn't have those popcorn stats, but I see a lot of good. I see 5 assists. I see 5 rebounds. I see some defensive stats there. He got 1 steal and 1 block. And he got paid a lot over the summer too to come to this team. And that's one of those things is where, he might be in and out of that lineup, so to speak, and not necessarily cracking the top 5 just yet, but that's because he's a new guy in that locker room, and it might take him some time to get acclimated. But tonight he saw a healthy 26 minutes there, so that might be a sign of things to come at a position once again that is being led by Mo Harkless, and it could be in flux all season. So you want to keep an eye on those guys that did pretty well right behind him.
Yeah, I think you got exactly what you're supposed to expect from a guy like Evan Turner. He's not there to score the basketball. Normally, you would hope that he'd be a little bit more efficient last season. I'm pulling up the stats right now. He shot – it looks like it's not popping up for me right now. But yeah, I know he didn't shoot terribly from the field. He's not going to get you those big numbers from the points column. He's going to get you the 4 rebounds. He's going to get you the 4 assists. He happened tonight, got 5 and 5 from that spot. He did get you the defensive stats with the steal and the block. I thought the best part of the night is even though he was struggling from the field and not giving you the points, he didn't turn over the basketball, and he was still able to give you he was at least to help you in other categories while he was hurting you in one major one, which is the field goal percentage. Another thing I want to bring up here, and I think it's something that kind of got me scratching my head, is the center position over there. Festus Ezeli is out. Mason Plumlee is the starter, but you saw guys like Ed Davis and Noah Vonleh get minutes behind him, and Mason Plumlee actually only saw 14 minutes of action. Noah Vonleh actually saw more off the bench with 16, and he finished with 11 points. Ed Davis played a lot of minutes behind Mason Plumlee. He played 24 minutes and had 6 rebounds and 7 rebounds. So I had 6 points and 7 rebounds. So I don't know what's happening over there at the center position. Are you even touching any of these guys in your drafts?
Well, if I was to think about anyone out there, I think Ed Davis is that guy. His per 36 or per 48 last year was actually, very impressive. So, he has a chance if he was to get a healthy dose of minutes that he actually might be able to produce the most for fantasy owners. One thing that I was keeping an eye on tonight was who's that first person off the bench, and to my surprise, it was actually Noah Vonleh. So seeing him come off the bench first was very interesting, although he ended up only playing 16 minutes there. And so I think that position is also another position on that team that's in flux right now. So it's interesting to see how that rotation works itself out. But I'd say right now the front runner is certainly Ed Davis.
Yeah, I think Ed Davis, I think he gets a little undervalued in deeper leagues when he does get the minutes. And right now with Festus Ezeli out, it looks like they're going to do that cycle of big men like they did last season until somebody sticks. He can get you blocks. He doesn't necessarily hurt you from the field. He doesn't get to the free throw line that much to where he would hurt you from the free throw line. He rebounds and he gets the points. Like you said, his per 36 numbers are just fine to have on your team, especially when you're in a deeper league. But are you worried about a guy like Mason Plumlee, who actually played very well through the playoffs, He's a good passer for his size. At least they made him that look that way throughout the playoffs last year. The defense is normally there, but 14 minutes of action. And I'm gonna go see if he had foul trouble. He had 4 fouls this game, so I guess maybe he was testing the line a little bit for Terry Stotts over there. But are you worried at all about Mason Plumlee's value, because he was drafted in the latter half of a lot of leagues?
I wouldn't be. It's not somebody, like you said, he was drafted in those latter half of leagues, so it's not somebody that I would be so concerned with. And with a player like that, you kind of want to just hold and see how that position plays out. He did have 4 fouls, and so there could have been some times there where he might have been in a little bit of foul trouble. And sometimes the game flow dictates a lot. They might want to bring in Ed Davis at times to play some defense or to score the bucket. So it's one of those things where if you have one of those 2 guys, if you have Plumlee or Ed Davis, that you might want to wait this one out, especially for maybe a week or 2, just to see how those minutes develop moving forward.
All right, guys, I want to thank the very few who were able to join us tonight here on Fantasy NBA Tonight Live. I do know that this was opening night of the NBA season, so I expected the viewership to be down a little bit, and I do expect Fantasy NBA Today tomorrow with Dan Bespris and your brother joining him on Fantasy NBA Today, being a very live and active show for everyone over there. So join them at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time in the morning for Fantasy NBA Today, where this will be the last week of all Q&As. Last week of all Q&As. I even think that tomorrow they'll be very limited to answering all of your questions. So if you want to get your question answered live on the show during the last 15 minutes before the boring head-to-head matchup that we've all been waiting for to see since we saw the schedule release of the Golden State Warriors versus the San Antonio Spurs, stinker. But if you want to get your Fantasy NBA questions answered here on tonight on the Fantasy NBA Tonight show, leave it in the live chat. We'll be more than happy to answer it for you. But because we are running out of time, Riaz, and I don't think we'll have enough time to cover the entire Spurs versus Warriors box score, I want to go over a couple players. After seeing a performance from Jonathan Simmons, and I'm pulling up the box score right now so I don't, give out any wrong stats, but he comes off the bench. He has 15 points in the first half, and right now with the game winding down, Jonathan Simmons has 18 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, a block on 7 of 11 shooting, and has 3 3-pointers. Are you rushing after him?
It depends. It depends on your league settings. I personally am not rushing after a guy like that. Especially when they got hot that game. So he's 7 for 11, and so to me that just kind of shows that that he was stroking it pretty well that game. And so it seems like it could just be a one-hit wonder. But that's somebody that you put on your watch list. It depends on the league. A lot of leagues are limited to, maybe it's a fab budget, or maybe it's you only have a certain amount of movement options per week, maybe like 2 or 3 moves. But if it's unlimited, sure, why not? Cut somebody towards the end of your roster there and just give them a flyer. So, I'd say it's situational, but I'd say put him on your watch list right now. He's on the radar for sure.
I go over to the chat board here, and we actually got a question. But before we get to that question, and I do see you there at Adina, Movie Dude says, I got here just in time. Let the Jonathan Simmons cult begin. I'm bringing the Kool-Aid. Great timing. So Jim asks, where do you rank Willie Cauley-Stein this season, and how many minutes can we expect to see? So Riaz, what are you expecting from Willie Cauley-Stein?
Well, Willie Cauley-Stein was he's one of those guys that, everyone likes to say free Willie. And I'm a believer myself. You're more of the Kings expert than I am. But from what I've seen in limited time, when he's had a chance, he puts up those big man stats and defensive stats. So, he has high potential. I'd say he's a high upside player. But it just depends on how the roster shakes out there. He's playing behind Kufos at times, and if he can win that spot, then maybe that he can put up some good numbers there in the top 130.
I'm worried that he's actually going to be. Well, there are already talks that he's going to be coming off the bench to start the season, and Kosta Kufos is going to be starting. But I'm not really that afraid of his minutes. I think you're going to see him start year, getting 18 to 20, maybe 22 minutes a night, which is fine to start the season. But here's a theory that I have all on my own covering this team. I can see that the Kings could possibly be using these beginning games to show off a guy like Kosta Koufis, who is a big man on a really nice contract. You see guys like Mozgov getting paid this summer, Jared Sullinger getting paid a little bit this summer to go to Toronto. And the need for a big man, at least a useful big man like Kosta Koufis, could be wanted. So they put him out on the floor, and maybe there's something there for other owners. And he'd be a nice attachment to a guy like Rudy Gay, being that his contract's there. He's a useful player. Plus, you also get a guy like Rudy Gay. So that could be an idea. I'll say this, and I'm not going to give away any of the Brewski 150 numbers of exactly where it is, but in the B150, Willie Cauley-Stein is ranked pretty high. And I'll also say that projection is based off how he's going to end the year and not how he's going to start the year. But he has been being drafted by a lot of the hoop ball experts over here because we do see the upside of Willie Cauley-Stein. I think the minutes are going to be there for Willie Cauley-Stein, and I think you saw a little bit of it through the last 3 games of the preseason. So I know it's a little bit of a vague answer. How many minutes do I expect? I think you're going to start the season, you may see 18 to 20. But I don't think you should give up on him. I think he's going to have nice PERs within those first few games until he gains the starting position. But yeah, Riaz, do you want to add anything more to the Willie Cauley-Stein discussion? Because, like I said, you and I and a lot of the hoop ball guys, including Aaron Brewski, who does the Brewski 150, has Willie Cauley-Stein ranked pretty high for us and have been drafting him in leagues. Is there anything you want to add to what Willie Cauley-Stein can bring to a fantasy owner's roster?
No, not necessarily. I think you talked about it, but the only thing to add is to just he's a player that you're holding on to. He's a player that you're not necessarily starting him for now, but you're starting him for later and hoping that situation develops into something where he is given an opportunity to break out. Over the course of an 82-game season, a lot of things can happen. A lot of pieces can be moved. Injuries might happen, and so if he was to be in a prime situation. He has shown, as you said, with his PER, that he has that type of potential to, be a home run type of player. So it just depends. It depends on if he gets that time.
Yeah, so I want to remind everyone with the last few minutes here, and we may go a little bit over time. Riaz, do you have the time to go a little bit over time to answer some of these guys' questions while this final game is ending? Right now there's 34 seconds left here in the San Antonio Warriors game, 127-100. It looks like the Spurs are going to be the very first team to beat the video game lineup that is the Golden State Warriors. So is there time for you to say so we can go over that box score and answer a few of these questions later on in the night?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, let's do it. I'm excited about the enthusiasm. It's opening night. And also, 81-1 is also still possible for those Warriors. So we'll see the naysayers, but 81-1 is going to be the new mantra.
Oh, my goodness gracious. I'm sorry. Jonathan Simmons hype is continuing going on. He just threw down a dunk, and that was amazing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's 129-100. I'm on a little bit of a delay movie, dude. I just saw the dunk. Oh, man. Jonathan Simmons
like Kool-Aid.
Oh my, Jonathan Simmons Kool-Aid. I'm drinking some right now. Don't go after him yet, but wow, that was nice. All right, guys, this is Fantasy NBA tonight. I want to thank all of you guys who have left that boring game and came to join us here on this live edition, Tuesday edition of Fantasy NBA Tonight Live, a hoop-ball.com presentation. I'm your host, Vince Miracle, and joining me on the other side, at least the Eastern Conference, I believe. I can't really remember where you are, but it's the one and only Riaz Dhanani, and we're here to answer all of your fantasy basketball questions. So we are going to go over the box score. I appreciate all of you guys who were able to join us here on this live show. Continue submitting in all of your questions. We will answer as many as we can. We're going to say a little bit over 10 o'clock tonight because I do know that it was opening night, and we did expect the viewership to go a little bit up and down. So, Riaz, if you are ready, I am pulling up the box score for the San Antonio Spurs versus the Golden State Warriors. But first, I have to ask you, and now that we have the viewership here, are you shocked by this 29-point loss by the Golden State Warriors? And are you excited to hear how Chuck is going to say, I told you these guys couldn't shoot. All they do is shoot the ball and shoot the ball. They're going to get beat.
Well, KD going over there is just absolutely terrible, that he was just going to go
terrible.
Chase a ring there. So, no, I'm not surprised, and I know you might roll your eyes, but all day I've been telling my friends they're going to lose the first game. and it's going to be overdrawn. Twitter is going to explode. This team is going to be done and rightfully criticized for a couple of days until they win that next one and then go on a huge run and lead the Western Conference by Christmas time. But no, to me, it's not the biggest surprise in the world, seeing that this team that they played today was I believe they won over 60 games last season, and they added Pau Gasol. So this is not the end of the world and not the craziest scenario on opening night, especially with a team that has not played a regular season game together. Now that they added somebody who has an extremely enormous usage rate in Kevin Durant.
All right, so I'm going to the box score here. And what side would you like to start off with first? Would you like to start off with the video game lineup that is the Golden State Warriors that just took the L on opening night? Or would you like to go with the San Antonio Spurs? I will let you decide.
Let's do it. Let's start with those Golden State Warriors. I see a question here. Actually, somebody's asking if I'm a Warriors fan. I am actually an anti Warriors fan. I actually pledge my loyalty to King James with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and so not a Warriors fan by any means, but I do recognize efficiency when I see it, and it's going to be an interesting season to watch the efficiency with the Golden State Warriors this year. But yeah, let's start with the Warriors.
All right, we're starting off with the Golden State Warriors, and at the top, it's the former MVP Kevin Durant. Plays 36 minutes in his Golden State Warriors debut, finishes with 27 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, and 11 of 18 shooting, 4 of 5 from the free throw line, hits 1 3-pointer, and does not turn over the basketball one time. A very efficient night and a very welcome debut for Kevin Durant and the Golden State Warriors. Draymond Green played 32 minutes tonight, and people were worried about what he'd be able to do on this team. Scores 18 points, finishes with 18 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 steals, 1 block on 7 of 15 shooting, 2 of 2 from the free throw line, and 2 3-pointers, and only turns over the basketball 2 times. Zaza Pachulia plays 20 minutes and finishes with 2 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. However, he only shot 1 shot tonight. He was 1 of 1 from the field. Doesn't go to the free throw line at all, so he didn't do much for you this entire night in his 20 minutes. Klay Thompson was very quiet in his 33 minutes. Played 33 minutes, has 11 points, 1 rebound, 2 assists on 5 of 13 shooting. And that I think is a little bit shocking because everyone thought his efficiency numbers would go up now that Kevin Durant is there and he'd probably be getting wide open shots. But maybe that's the Harrison Barnes effect when you're the third wheel in that. I don't know. Maybe too soon. Just game 1. And the reigning MVP, the unanimous vote last season, Stephan Curry plays 34 minutes, finishes with 26 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists on 9 of 18 shooting. Hits 3 3-pointers on 10 attempts. The guy is good. We know this lineup is going to be good. I think what you really have to look at is this bench. 10 minutes for David West. He finished with 2 points, 2 rebounds. Sean Livingston plays 12 minutes, 2 points, 2 rebounds. McCaw, 2 points, 2 assists in 9 minutes. Anderson Varejao played 3, got 1 point, and JaVale McGee played 3 minutes and finishes with 2 points. And Looney, garbage time minutes, 3 points, or 3 minutes and 0 points in his time. So really no help off the bench from anybody. So it really came down to the starters. Even a guy like Andre Iguodala, who played 26 minutes off the bench, finished with 2 points, 2 rebounds, and 3 assists with only 1 steal, and shot 1 of 3 from the field. So you hear the stat line and you see the box score for the Golden State Warriors. What are your initial takeaways?
I'm seeing that there's a question about if this is a standard box score to expect for the Golden State Warriors, and I don't think that it's going to differ too much. I mean, you're going to see a rotation between those top 4 guys there for the Warriors, and there's going to be your Draymond games, and in fact, he had a Draymond game tonight with 5 steals and 12 rebounds and 18 points. And you're going to have Kevin Durant and Stephen Curry leading the scoring, but I wouldn't be too scared about Klay Thompson just yet. Before the show, me and you were kind of going back about Klay Thompson, and I was mentioning how last year he actually started out and put owners in a panic frenzy to start the season last year. I believe he was a he was a second round pick, maybe an early second round pick last year, and he started off pretty poorly. But sure enough, owners panicked. He was sold low by some people, and a lot of people buyed low on him. And he ended up finishing the season, as we all saw, with some historical numbers. And so I wouldn't just panic too much on Klay Thompson yet. He's going to have his games. He had games like this last season, whether Kevin Durant was there or not. He had plenty of games where he got cold from behind the arc and wasn't able to convert. But I'd say that this box score you're going to see a lot of this going forward. But there's going to be some fluctuation between those four studs on Golden State.
Klay Thompson's going to be Klay Thompson this season. If this scares anybody and you want to go and try buy low, this is not the time. You need to see you need to see another game with that happening. This was just you seeing a brand new team. And I'm going to bring up another big three that happened with Klay back in the day. You're looking at Klay, Stephan, and Kevin Durant. You remember when the Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron James came together? They struggled to start their dynamic trio out there in Miami. They struggled in the beginning, and then I believe they almost broke the record for the most consecutive wins in a season. So I'm not judging them off this one game. I think this is a box score that you can continue to see moving forward. I think Kevin Durant, he any given night, he can get you 30 or more points. He's definitely someone you want to have on your team. It looks like they're not bothered at all by being on the team with Stephan Curry, who finished with 1 point less at 26 points. So the stats are going to be there to go around, and it's not like Klay didn't have his shots. And I think that's another thing that we can look at as well before we move on to the San Antonio Spurs, who happened to get the victory tonight. Kevin Durant shot the most shots. He had 18 shots. Stephan Curry matched that. He had 18. Draymond had 15, but Klay had 13. So everyone got a turn. Everyone had their chance to score, and unfortunately, Klay was not able to knock down his shots. But think about if he did. If Klay Thompson put on a Klay Thompson performance, you could see this game turning another way. I think you're going to see the defensive problems continue on. The depth is now gone, and you see that because of the bench numbers. The depth is just not there for the Golden State Warriors. They're not a shot-blocking team. Their defense around the rim is going to be hard. I think when they go up against big man, we talked about the Sacramento Kings earlier. They have guys like Kosta Koufis, who I don't think is a great example, but DeMarcus Cousins is, and he can score around the basket. You saw what he did against Charlotte last season, and that came in a loss. So I guess but it's these type of lines where I think you're going to expect the scoring, but I think the defensive stats are something you want to keep an eye on moving forward because they need the help off their bench, and they just did not get it. Are we ready to move on to the Spurs side, or is there anything else you want to add about the Golden State Warriors?
No, it's just that's the typical box score, like you were saying, and there's not really much other than those four guys to be owned there. It's a wasteland. So those four studs, they're all highly owned and they have high usage, and there's not very much room for anyone else to do much else. So, yeah, I'd say it's time to move to the Spurs.
All right, now we move on to the San Antonio Spurs, who blew people's mind and, as ESPN wrote, demolishes the Golden State Warriors. Kawhi Leonard, man, this guy is good. 32 minutes, 35 finishes with 35 points. 5 rebounds, 3 and 5 steals as well. 10 of 21 from the field, 15 of 15 from the free throw line. He doesn't hit a three-pointer, but he only turns over the ball 2 times and only gets 1 personal foul. I think that's something to take note of. He never gets into foul trouble. LaMarcus Aldridge, 35 minutes, 26 points, 14 rebounds, 3 assists, and 1 steal on 10 of 20 shooting. The key guy line and actually got a three-pointer to drop and only turn over the ball 2 times. Pau Gasol is 18 minutes, 2 points, 4 rebounds, and an assist on 1 of 4 shooting. Kyle Anderson, who got the start in place of Danny Green, finishes with 3 points and 4 rebounds, as well as 1 steal in his 22 minutes of play. Tony Parker played 26 minutes, 9 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists on 4 and 9 shooting. Patty Mills was the first player off the bench, played 7 minutes, 11 points, 1 rebound, 5 assists, and 4 steals on 4 of 9 shooting. He also had 3 3-pointers and did not turn over the basketball, so a very efficient night for Patty Mills. Jonathan Simmons, let's take a sip of our juice for him real quick. Puts on an opening night MVP performance. the guy that probably no one had in their DFS lineup. And if you did, I really hope you had him with guys like LeBron James and them in your lineup, and you won big money. But Jonathan Simmons plays 28 minutes tonight, finishes with 20 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, a block on 8 of 14 shooting. He did only shoot 1 of 3 from the free throw line, but only taking three free throws shouldn't hurt you. Plus, he gave you 3 3-pointers to go with his points and only turned over the ball twice. Wow, that's a nice night from Jonathan Simmons. Did not expect that at all. Dwayne Dedmon played 16 minutes, 2 points, 8 rebounds. That was nice to see. Manu Ginobili, 20 minutes, 10 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. And then they played garbage minutes with Forbes and Bertans, who finished with 5 points and 1 rebound. What are some of your biggest takeaways from that box score, Riaz?
Well, it's got to be alarming to Pau Gasol owners that he only played 18 minutes tonight, and hopefully, for their sake, it's a product of this game getting a little bit out of hand at times. Especially, even at halftime, it was a pretty big lead there. It looks like it was about 18 points, and then going into the fourth quarter. So maybe it is, and it might be one of those situations with Pop where he likes to get his veterans in there, to get their feet wet, but at the same time, kind of lay low here and there. So that's something to watch for moving forward, is how Pau Gasol's playing time stacks up. Also, Tony Parker seemed to have one of his regular, recent games where he's getting in his older years there and doesn't really contribute too much in fantasy, but he has one of those bigger names. Whereas behind him, you're seeing Patty Mills be a serviceable, just as serviceable as Tony Parker. So that's something also to watch for moving forward. And then, like you said, your guy Jonathan Simmons. I mean, you can't deny 28 minutes there. That's one of the first things I look at is minutes and production. And so, if he's doing both and he's on the San Antonio Spurs team and they're craving somebody like that off the bench, if he continues to do that going forward, then maybe he's worth something. And as we covered already, but I'm going to reiterate it again. It depends on your settings. If you have a spot on your roster and there's unlimited moves in your league, why not put him on your roster? If you have very limited amounts of moves in your league, then maybe that's someone to star and put on your watch list. And then, if he does it again, then yeah, I'd say the second time would be a time that you would need to add him.
I think Jonathan Simmons, yeah, definitely the juice is there. I think you got to take the wait and see approach a little bit, but he is a guy who can come in there and give you, gave you some spot points. I think he can give you more defense stats than you think, but I would not expect 20 points a night from this guy. Please pump the brakes a little bit there, guys. The person that I want to talk about, and I don't think he's getting enough love, especially after his Olympic performances. Again, 17 minutes and had 11 points, 5 assists, and 4 steals. Did not turn over the basketball. He knocked down a couple 3-pointers. Do you think Patty Mills is a guy who can potentially get even more minutes when they start resting guys like Tony Parker in the middle of a season and is worth an end of the roster spot if you're looking for, a little trickle of assists, a trickle of points, and of course the 3-pointers. And of course, he's not going to be turning over the ball over that much. So again, what are your thoughts on a guy like Patty Mills?
I think you covered it, but I'm just going to say it again. I think that him and Tony Parker, they might be able to establish very similar value. If not, Patty Mills might be able to outlive Tony Parker's value there, just because Parker is that veteran that's going to be sitting, and he's constantly has ailments, as we've seen in prior seasons. And Mills takes runs with the keys to that offense, and is a good source of point guard stats, very similar to Parker's, and a lot more efficient.
Phone alert going off. All right. Well, all right, guys. Let's go ahead and start answering some of your fantasy basketball questions. We did stay a little over time, so you guys can start throwing them in the live chat. So I definitely recommend that you do it right now, but before the show wraps up. And it looks like we definitely have a few. Riaz, are you a Warriors fan? You answered that one. Do you think Alex Len is a good pick? So I'll let you go ahead and answer that one, Riaz.
Sure. There's so many questions about players on the Phoenix Suns right now. He had times last season where he was playing pretty well, but that depth chart, there's just so many guys that are in there, and they're trying to play a fast-paced offense. I think that he still needs to prove himself. He needs to show us something more. And so, if he gets in there and he starts getting those minutes again like he was last season, maybe he'll be worth something. He's somebody to keep on your radar because he has produced for a month at a time as he did last year. But no, I don't think he's someone right now that I'd be watching for very closely until he gets more time and more opportunity.
Pick one, Riaz, Etuan Moore, Lawson, Patty Mills, rest of season and this week.
Oh, yeah, this week I'm thinking, and maybe for the season, Etuan Moore, he has a very good opportunity. People are kind of sleeping on him right now. They're looking at Buddy Hield because he was a high pick, but a lot of times the veteran right in front of them can do a lot better. Etuan Moore could go out there and see. It's going to be very interesting to see how many minutes he plays in this first game. But I would expect somewhere upwards of 27 to 30 minutes, and in that offense. He can get you those defensive stats, and he's also an efficient three-point shooter as well. So that's a guy that I would actually prefer out of those. As we talked about with Lawson earlier, that's a first week guy, but that's not a rest of season guy, so to speak. And so yeah, I would definitely choose Etuan Moore out of those three.
Out of those three, I'm going with rest of season. Definitely going to be Etuan Moore. I believe that the San Antonio Spurs are one of the very few teams that have only a 2-game week this week. Ty Lawson is going up against the Phoenix Suns. That's a very tough team with their guards there with Devin Booker, Eric Bledsoe, and Brandon Knight. So he's going to have a tough night there. Plus the San Antonio Spurs are on a back-to-back to start the season. So that's going to be another rough one. And I cannot remember off the top of my head who that third game is. So I don't like that. I do agree with you. I think the Etuan Moore is going to be the this week. I'm leaning more towards Patty Mills for rest of season just because I think, Pop, you're going to definitely see the resting of Tony Parker. I think that what you saw in the Olympics was not a spoof. I definitely am a fan of Patty Mills, so I guess you can kind of take it with a grain of salt. But again, I think the minutes are definitely going to be there. Tony Parker they're going to want him healthy to go inside the playoffs. Plus, Patty Mills can play some shooting guard minutes depending on the team that they're playing against. So I'm going to go with, for rest of season, Mills, Moore, Lawson. For rest of this week, Moore, Lawson, Mills. Jose Ibarra writes, Ersan Ilyasova or Mirza Teletovic?
That's a good question. I feel like I would put more stock into Teletovic just in case there's an injury there. If there's an injury on that squad, then he has a chance to, maybe put up top 150 numbers. And so that's one guy that, he's more of a benefactor if somebody was to get hurt. Ilyasova has seen his days before, but I think that he's also buried on that depth chart. And I'd rather have Teletovic, but I don't think it's a definitive answer by any means.
I do think that Milwaukee team needs shooting, but at the same time, you look at the wing spot in OKC, and Ersan Ilyasova could potentially play that 3-4 role, and mainly more toward the 4. So I don't really like that outlook for him because they have Sabonis starting and his Cantor there as well. So and then they have Kyle Singler and Roberson above him. So I would go with Mirza between the two, just because the shooting is definitely needed in Milwaukee with guys like Giannis, Jabari Parker, and all of them there. So I'm going to go with Mirza. Don't kill me if I'm wrong. Movie Dude says, was I wrong to drop Noah for the man they call Jay Simmons?
That's a classic first night maybe overreaction there, but you just never know in these situations. Noah is one of those guys who is more of a name than his production right now. Until he's not someone that I wouldn't have made that move personally, but that's somebody that maybe in another game, maybe 1, 2, maybe 3 games, if you're seeing the same trend from these two guys, then sure, I would cut bait with a Joakim Noah, just because it just seems like he hasn't recovered from that injury, and maybe he's not used to game speed yet. I believe last season he only played 29 games, and so it might take him some time to get back into that. That gritty way that he plays. But until we see it, it wouldn't kill me to drop a Joakim Noah type of guy, but I would have waited a few more games, maybe the entire week actually, with a guy like that. But hey, to each their own.
Yeah, I wouldn't have dropped. I mean, I would honestly. I don't really care for the two. So are you wrong to drop Noah? Maybe if it's Noah Vonleh, you're wrong because Noah Vonleh had a good night too. I don't know. If it's Joakim Noah, he finished with 0 points, and there's a good chance he does that. This isn't the only night he does that. He's not known for his points. He also tried to drive and do a layup, and that was just terrible tonight. So no, you're not crazy, and the dunks that you're going to see from Jonathan Simmons while Danny Green is out is going to be awesome. Look at you. You said you're on the bam right here. I'm drinking the juice. That's the Jonathan Simmons juice. Ha says, is the premium package the same format as this session? It kind of just depends. I mean, this session, there's a good chance we either move the time to a later date or to a later time, maybe the 10 p.m. slot for the Fantasy NBA Tonight shows. But to answer your question more straightforward, yes, the premium in-season subscription is for these Fantasy NBA Tonight live shows, where we do all the Q&As, where we do talk about the games that just had happened and our initial reaction and who's hot, who's not, who should you guys cut. All these questions are things that we're here to answer for you. I did know that the viewership was going to be a little bit up and down because of the opening night games, because it's the first night of the NBA season. So to answer the question, like I said, straightforward is yes, this is the type of format that you'll see. We'll go over the games that were. We'll talk about some of our biggest takeaways from each of those games as quickly as possible, as well as answering all of your fantasy basketball questions. Now on Fantasy NBA Today, it's a little bit different. They're going to have they're going to have segments in the show where they're going to talk about the night that was and also give you upcoming look at what's about to happen. But also in the premium in-season subscription, you guys might have saw it earlier today while they did it live. Aaron Brewski, Dan Bespris, they help set your weekly lineups every single Monday. So it's things like that that you're going to get from the in-season product that you definitely want to go and become an in-season member. And to do so, all you have to do is go in the description, and I've actually left a link there. So all you guys have to do is click it. A new window will pop up, so you don't even have to leave this show and become an in-season member today. And for right now, all the way up until November 1st, because it takes a $10 jump on November 1st, the in-season premium package is only $19.99. When you go to November 1st, and $9. So get it while it's cheap, get it while it's hot, and yeah, look out because there might even be a promo code tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time when Fantasy NBA Today goes live with your brother Riaz Dhanani. So the next question here says, it was from Movie Dude, says, I love Noah, but I break my ankles jumping on and off bandwagons. For your information, I've purchased it. I will see you guys around. All right, see you around. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. I got the opening night discount. There you go. See, we had discounts. You took advantage of it. We appreciate it. We love all of the fans. And it looks like that is all of our questions here today, Riaz. So I'll leave it like this. I want to thank everyone, but Riaz, I want to get your thoughts on opening night and how you feel, how great you feel that the NBA season is finally back and kicking, and we're ready to see balls go through holes.
It's just amazing. It's an excellent feeling, seeing that seeing that banner get raised tonight, by the Cavs to kick it off, and then watching the Warriors go down tonight was actually pretty exciting too, because a lot of people are feeling like this season's on autopilot just because there's a super team now, but clearly that's not the case after seeing what happened tonight. And what transpired, but also it's a good time for fantasy NBA. It's a time to get those stats in there and watching how your guys play, and then making moves. Key moves are always in this first week, and so we really appreciate all the fan support. You guys keep asking those questions. That's what we're here for, and it's fun. It's fun to bounce your ideas off of other guys that are staring at stats all day and writing about it, and are in the know and reading Twitter and all things like that. So please subscribe and take advantage of those discounts. We're here for you. We're here for you, and I'm here for you on Tuesday nights.
I try to make him break. He was just going too good. I try to make you break because I know they can't see me when I'm making silly faces at you. See, like that. See, there you go. There you go. No one can see him. Riaz, before we let you go and we sign off, where can they find you online, and what's that Twitter handle down below in the description?
All right, it's at Riaz D. That's at RIAZD, and that's on Twitter.
Go follow him at Riaz D, R-I-A-Z in the capital D. Follow me on all social media platforms. I'm at VM Center. Follow the site at Hoopball Tweets, all on Twitter. Bookmark the site, hoop-ball.com. Become a premium in-season member so you can continue getting fantasy NBA Tonight live with myself and whoever my co-host may be through the Monday through Friday schedule. Wednesday, I will not be seeing you guys at all on Fantasy NBA Today or on Fantasy NBA Tonight because that is the day I spend time with my family. So I can't wait to spend time with them. I needed a day off. If you guys have any more, earlier today, Ria, someone asked me how do I balance, or yesterday during the night show, they asked how do you balance being a dad with a new coming baby and having a baby and setting your roster. And I said it before, and Dan brought it up earlier today. Manage the toilet time wisely. So I'm willing to answer more of these fantasy basketball being a dad questions or being a mom questions because I'm ready for them. I've practiced it. I've been there for 3 years. I've got it locked down. I'm ready. All right, guys, follow all of us. Bookmark the site. Please hit that thumbs up button so we know that you like this show. Become a subscriber here to this YouTube channel so you can keep up to date with all the videos and content that we have coming out here. Great stuff coming out from these guys. Update on the Brewski 150. Go get the draft guy. Again, in-season subscription. Good luck to all of you guys on your season. And until tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time with Zane Dhanani, Dan Bestris, and Dan Bestris will be with you on Fantasy NBA Tonight Live. Peace out, everyone. Throw up the peace sign, Riaz.
See ya.